So, recording has started, and I would like to say welcome to everyone who's been wanting to participate here today. This is a very exciting and special day for us since we are doing this dissemination of the latest development we've done within the ME-UOS project. And I'm just going to share a little presentation and let you know then after that University of Ljubljana will present their development, followed by Willem de Koning from their development, and finish with our presentation from Design School Kolding. And then following that, we'll have a Q&A and a discussion as well. So it goes like this. After the presentation of mine, every higher education that do the presentation will present for 10 minutes, leaving 10 minutes for whatever questions there might arise or any discussion at that point, and then we will gather everything up at the end. Good, and I take it somebody is helping me letting people in. But yes, let me just share my screen with you. Actually, I'm getting all the admitting. I don't know if I think I'll do differently. I'll do like that, like this. Okay, so yes, as I said, this is the ME-UOS project. We are 2 years into our project. We have 1 more year to go, and we have started developing the final development as well. But for now, the focus is very much on diversity and inclusion, and of course, always the green transition. But we swap around where the main focus is. It's University of Ljubljana, and it's Willem de Koning Academy from Rotterdam, and Design School Kolding from Kolding, Denmark. We are very fortunate to have the associated partners from whom we draw a lot of insights and also draw state of the art, and they give us feedback and they help us develop the course modules we are doing. This is just 3 visuals from the 3 institutions. From the left, Willem de Koning, in the middle, University of Ljubljana, and a body scan from Design School Kolding on the right. And the main focus has been in this one to see how we can use the digital tools of body scanning and making digital representations of the other, the you, and see how this could fit into our curriculum and the way we address fashion today. If you want to see more about the course descriptions, course briefs, learning, all the educational material and so on, you can find it at the ME-UOS.education website. Otherwise, for now, I'll just leave it over to University of Ljubljana to do their presentation.
Hi, everyone. I will start by sharing my screen. Yeah, perfect. Crystal, can you confirm you see my presentation?
I do.
Amazing. Thank you. So, hi, everyone. My name is Nastya, and I will be presenting on behalf of the team from University of Ljubljana. I will present the second model that we practiced in previous study year. Module was called Industry, Innovation and Inclusion, where we mostly focused and debated about topics of inclusion and diversity within the fashion. And the aim was that students learned and experimented with the 3D and the body scanners. It was a relatively short project where the focus was mostly in theoretical research and reflections, but one of the outcomes was also a virtual design. I will showcase some of the project outcomes, explain how we touched the topics of SEAT, and share our pedagogical methodologies. On the end, I will also share some project evaluations we gathered quickly. Before I show the project outcomes, I share that at this model, we combine the industry partner innovation in terms of body scanning and the topic of inclusion within the fashion. We wish to emphasize that the industry, end user, and the higher educational institution all played an important and equal role in this module, and we wish to promote this both directional communication among each other. At the first segment of the project, we wanted to engage students into critical thinking of how fashion can be more inclusive and how to promote diversity of our bodies within the fashion, and how the digital tools and virtual design could potentially contribute to more diverse fashion. It was a theoretical part where they, in groups, discussed and questioned those topics. Groups tackled different topics and thought about various different end user groups. Here you can see work from group who mostly focus on their own struggle within the fashion in terms of the fit and size and how they think fashion should rethink and work around those common issues. Different groups also worked around end user with Down syndrome. One group talked about transgender group. There was also a group exploring how to bring the sustainable fashion closer to the public. So really how to make sustainable fashion more inclusive in terms of being more affordable and similar solutions. At the second segment of our project, outcomes were also, one of the outcomes were also scanned bodies of our end users who were called Adam and Eve. Due to the ethical reasons, we gave them new names and we introduced them in form of avatars with avatar faces from the Claw library. And we are not going to share the scanning process in terms of the visuals. So it's more or less you are seeing avatars, and I will share more about how and why we choose those end users on the later stage. Just wanted to say that we introduced them as Adam and Eve also to the students, and we together discussed those ethical reasons why we did so. They met Adam and Eve in person for their interviews, which I will also mention in the end. So they know who they are and how they look behind the avatars, but we always communicated with their new names and with the avatars. Students did not scan their own avatars themselves or their own end users themselves, but rather they researched other options and solutions for body scanning, and they found various options with photogrammetry. Sorry for that. I will also mention more about that on later stage. Here I just wanted to explain about the outcomes. We introduced them also to our industry partner, as I mentioned, Mila Vert. And so they created multiple mood boards researching Mila Vert identity and combined it with the end user needs and fashion, their fashion wishes, let's call them. They finished the project with the small virtual fashion collections. Each student in the group created one of the looks, so the collections were in different sizes, really. So each group contained 5 or 6 students, depending on the group. There was an equal number of groups working with Eva and Adam. And as a group, they were not able to choose their own end user, so they drew either Adam or Eve themselves. So those were the outcomes, but I wish to also explain on how and why we choose to work with Mila Vert and maybe more about behind the scene, how we planned the project. Slovenia does not have big fashion industry, and fashion brands working here are mostly very small and they are quite niche. Many they're trying to work around different sustainable aspects within the fashion, including inclusiveness, diversion, and so on. Mila Vert is one of them. They used to work with made-to-measure business model, and they are planning their sustainable production with pre-orders. They are working sustainably from many aspects. I'm not going to stress about them, but there's many aspects how they are trying to be most sustainable as they can be. With our students, they shared multiple fit and size challenges that they are and how themselves are kind of researching and exploring different ways of body scanning and body measurement, like body measuring with the apps and all the solutions they kind of tried themselves. And they were also sharing, which I found very interesting, that 20% of their customer, those whose measurements they received, were non-standard sizes. And we explore a lot about that because we believed it's quite a big percentage. With students, we then talked and discussed really extensively about sizing charts and those sizing charts that are usually not inclusive with very common irregularities in sizing. And this became our theme of the project, really. We were mentioning also made-to-measure solutions and others, and mostly we were questioning how can fashion industry be more inclusive and diverse within the fashion. So those were like the main topics students explored. Students also did the wardrobe study with their end users. So we introduced them this exercise to them. As I mentioned before, based on our studies with the body scanners, we learned that the equipment either is quite expensive, but also the scanning with this hand scanner that we practice isn't very user-friendly. So because in Slovenia, with only small-scale fashion brands and those new young fashion designers starting their business, students then tried to find new solutions with the photogrammetry that could be more affordable for those small brands and young designers than maybe scanners are. If some apps were not accurate enough, students also found some options where bodies can be at least well measured, and then those measurements could be then later used in Cloud 3D to adjust the avatar or other solutions. But based on the amount of different apps, it seems that photogrammetry is really improving and that body scanning is quickly developing, I would say. As I mentioned before, we discussed and mostly focused on how standard sizing is usually not inclusive even to very common irregularities in sizing. Here I see a mistake. I forgot to write the measurements from the avatars from the Claw library. But yeah, we choose Adam, who is just a bit taller or quite taller than the standard average sizes, and Eva, who is way more petite and have a lot of struggle finding garments that would fit them. I am aware that Adam does not look way taller than the avatar from the Claw. This is because we tried to find the tallest one we found, but this one was still within the library. This one was still quite shorter, and the garments wouldn't really fit exactly. I'm aware of time. To touch our pedagogical methodologies, our students had multiple presentations, workshops, a lot of self-study, and the teamwork, of course, that they done doing the project. On the end, I wish to share also a bit of the project evaluation from our students. So we asked them how would they rate their success of this module based on the added knowledge they received and the skills and the competences within the body scanning kind of topics of inclusion and diversity they started with this project, and results were quite promising and positive. We also asked them how likely are they to use Cloud 3D or other like body scanning devices or so. And yeah, they were saying they will quite likely use them probably. And I think I just wanted to summarize with that because I believe that those are promising and motivating answers also for us who are trying to introduce those new technologies to the students. I'm ending this presentation. I know I quickly run through the outcomes and what we did behind the scenes. I prepared some questions maybe for further discussion, but really what was they're quite different, as you can see, but I would maybe start with the third one. What are the ethical concerns related to the body scanning technology in industry? Particularly regarding the data privacy and consent. This was the topic that we discussed most within our mentors, the team who prepared this module, and thinking really how can those concerns be effectively addressed to ensure the responsible use of the technology going forward, now that we know that we are trying to use this technology quite a lot. So maybe if somebody has any kind of ideas on that or how to, so we try to discuss with students about those ethical reasons. Why didn't we now show you the scanning process and show you who people are behind? But maybe anyone having any ideas on that, maybe want to add something. How could we, in academic aspect, address this? But otherwise, this was all from my part, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nastya. I'll just say one thing that it was really brilliant. Thank you. And I would like to say that there are some questions in the chat, so please feel free also to answer there. And Paulina from Willem de Groningen will keep adding some questions there as well. So, but anyone who would like to, have you got any questions for Nastya and the project, or anyone who would like to comment on the to what extent the body scanning technology has helped address inclusivity and diversity in sizing and fit? Was that your question, or which one was? No, that was another one that was yours.
This was also one of the questions, correct?
So if we have anybody here from industry or anybody who's worked in this field or would like to work, we would like to hear back from you what you have of experience or how you work with the other. Anyone? Alge?
I don't have a question, but I see that I cannot see the chat, so I don't know if many more people have problems with that. But questions and
Good question.
I see that Q&A is not working, but I see chat is open. So, okay, there is a question. I'm not sure if it's addressed to me. So to what extent has body scanning technology helped address inclusivity and diversity in the sizing and fit? How do you think it could further contribute to creating more inclusive fashion solutions? So Paulina, was that addressed to me?
I think it's addressed to everyone who would like to participate.
I think, yes.
Everybody who would like to participate in the with experience or curiosity or. I'll read another one from the Q&A if you can't see it. I'm very unfortunate. It should be all there ready for you. It was before, but another question is, how familiar are you with digital fashion tools like 3D scanning applied to digital fashion? And it's like, are you very familiar? Do you know it at all? Are you somewhat heard of it or not at all familiar? Anyone who want to join the floor here and tell something about body scanning? Not really?
Not really. So maybe I could quickly just share. We discussed this with our students, and we found out that none of them had this experience before, and they are very excited to use it now. So just maybe to break the ice here. So students were not really used to this technology before, but would be great to hear from industry partner, maybe any other business partners here joining us today.
Mm.
So I can also mention Edmila Bert, who they are not, so Tina isn't here with us today. She couldn't join. She knew that in advance. But for example, their brand, they did try solutions how people could be measured with the apps or scan themselves. They found issues, and I can tell you one, for example, they found out that even though some apps worked for them, it did not work on, like it was, don't know how to explain it really correct, but the app or plugin was too difficult and too heavy for the website they're having. So that slowed down their selling because of the having plugin for the scanning on their website. So for example, that could be one of the
That could be an
issues.
issue, yeah. Christian Kunsemüller, you have your hand raised. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's a question of, yes, thank you. I represent an organization of young people with disabilities, and we've had the oh, there's a wind here, sorry. We've had the pleasure of participating here. And at Crystal, I was just thinking, this 3D scanning thing is really helping the inclusion for our target group, because it is so difficult for many of them if you're in a wheelchair or have a default or an, how can I put it, a non-normal shaped body, then this is kind of revolutionizing for them to be able to go into a scanner or meet someone with the scanner and then have custom made clothes in this direction. So if that was what you were asking about, then this is truly inclusive in its best meaning. So from a user perspective, from the one receiving the clothes, then this is perfect.
That's great. Good to hear. Good to hear, Christian. Thank you. Any other ones who want to either ask Christian more or us, or any comments? Yes, Nino van Lid.
Yeah, I was doing my internship at a 3D fashion company, kind of, and they were also working with someone who was implementing this body scanning for specifically disabled people. I remember that company didn't do so well because it's too expensive to produce the garments one by one, but it's already something that is kind of working within the industry, and it's a proven concept in a way, so it's interesting.
Well, thank you. And how did you work with it yourself, Nino?
I myself don't work with 3D scanning, not yet. I'm looking into it still, but I'm focusing more on like 3D art, so it's not as relevant for me right now.
Okay. Thank you very much for adding. Janice Tam.
Hi, everyone. So I'm one of the founders of True to Form. We're actually one of the body scanning applications, not necessarily used by Nastia's group. We didn't see our company listed there, but our company is called True to Form. And so I have quite a bit of experience with mobile body scanning. We do it from a smartphone app. And of course, there's certain limitations with taking body scans from a smartphone, keeping in mind that everyone is doing it from their own home or from various different locations. And so we've really spent the last 2 years trying to build in advanced scan guidance to correct for all the different edge cases for how people could scan incorrectly. And I thought the stat that you shared, Nastia, about the percent, I think it was about 20% of students found that, or 20% are outside of standard sizes. So I think there's a lot that can be done to improve from an inclusivity standpoint using body scanners. In the US, for example, we've worked with a number of fashion schools, including Savannah College of Arts and Design, where we help emerging brands design their sizing standards based off of scans using the True to Form mobile app, so they can better understand what their target demographic looks like and refine their size standards accordingly. So I think there's a lot that can be done for different groups, even ones that are like petites like myself, or fuller busted, big and tall, folks that are particularly underserved today.
Thank you very much, Janice. And yes, we will showcase some of the works done with the True to Form as well when we present as well. So thank you very much. Yeah. Richard?
Hello, thank you for the presentation. Could you say a little bit more about the change or any change in the students' attitudes to the idea of inclusivity in their work?
So yeah, I think so those were the second year students. So far, they used to design solely imagining their imaginary end user, and for them it was just easier to work with standard sizes, did not think about those things much. And so now that we open those topics, you could see that they basically first, a lot of them turned in themselves, like thinking about themselves first as a first person, really thinking what maybe either difficulty they have as fashion buyers. That was the first we noticed, not as a fashion designer point of view, but really as a consumer. So that's how they started to think about that. Maybe that was somehow kind of helpful to them. And then I think once we've kind of did this first segment that I mentioned, there were two segments, and presented to each other what team works, like what kind of work the team's done. I think they, because as I mentioned, there was a group solely focusing on what they would buy and what issues they have. They did not maybe think about other issues that arise around. And then there was a group with Down syndrome, and then they were talking about their kind of challenge and people they're having with this syndrome, that maybe they have to have all the garments altered certain way because of the neck. And I do not remember all of the things they found out. I remember the presentation was amazing, and how the rest of the class was really starting to think, well, yes, of course, because maybe I did not know anyone. I wasn't really aware of how fashion is not inclusive, for example, for that kind of group. And then another group came with completely different concept, and I think that was also great that we had this mid presentation, because we kind of opened their like imagination and also maybe that helped them researching later a bit more broadly, if that makes sense, because maybe on the beginning they were not really aware maybe, and they focus maybe inward in themselves with their experience only and so on. So I think that was, from that point of view, this project was really essential for us in the mid kind of time of their studies. Could be basically brought up earlier, I would say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now I would like to ask, yeah, we call it VDGA, but William de Koningen for their presentation, and then following that also say, or perhaps make you all, while you listen to the presentation, also think about whether you think that adaptive designs for individuals with disabilities are adequately represented in the fashion innovation industry today. But I'll let it on to whomever is presenting from VDGA.
That would be me.
Thought so.
Yes. Okay, great. So I'm gonna put a little timer so I don't over. Okay, good. Well, welcome. Thank you for also, being here. My name is Leroy van Helen. I'm one of the teachers of the Wim de Kooning, and I was the work package kind of teacher here within the Wim de Kooning that looked over this project. I'm gonna share my screen. Please confirm that you can see it. Yes?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go quite quickly through it, and I will not be speaking a lot because we actually also documented interviews with our students, and they will do the talking. But for us, this block is actually quite a funny block because students are already working digitally, and we really want to develop something new for our students within our program, and we really focus this work package on storytelling and making animation. Students, of course, have this is a year 2 assignment, they have already some skill in digital fashion design. So we created a package or a module that's called Addressing the Future Digital Other. And it is very much a series of methods on how to do inclusive and sustainable design, but especially inclusivity and diverse storytelling for fashion design. We have 3 areas or 3 methods that we call it to address this topic, which is including diverse bodies, representing real material culture, and telling truthful stories. I'm quickly going through it. The first method that we really started off with, the blog, was basically We want to talk about different kinds of bodies, different kinds of sizes, different kinds of cultures. Students were asked to find an other, so someone that is not themselves, and talk with these people and try to make a narrative that they could represent through the tool of virtual fashion. The first step in kind of them representing this narrative was including diverse bodies. And they use Blender for this. So they were working on custom avatars, and then these avatars were in the end imposed in Cloud 3D. And we have interviews about why this is important from our students.
We do not
There's no
hear the
Oh, you
sound.
don't hear me? Okay.
We don't hear
good.
the sound.
Okay, I will quickly reshare it. I did not put on the sound. Excuse me. Yes. This should work. Better?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the representation is very important, especially also looking at my concepts where I discuss not being able to see myself in the future because there aren't really like queer bodies that are represented in media or animations in which I can see myself. So from that perspective, I could really see the value in representation through different body types, but also different skin colors, textures, just so that people can see themselves in what is supposed to represent them.
Yeah, for me, I think in my future image, I'm talking about everyone, and with everyone, we have to include everyone. So we don't have to forget different ages, races, and body types. And I think some of them get forgetting quite often. So yeah, it's very important to show diversity.
Okay. I think someone has their sound on. Please check that because I think I hear something. The second method that we found within our kind of strategy of inclusivity, of sustainability, inclusivity, and diversity was representing real material culture. One of our observations was that a lot of fashion material is very kind of polished, and that often people go directly to aesthetics, and they don't really, in virtual fashion, want to include the grittiness of the outside. So we created an exercise where students had to use Luma or different other photogrammetry apps to 3D scan or make a representation of material culture that was important to their topic, to the other that they were including, and then bring this into Blender. And from Blender, they would make an HRI map that they can then use within the context of Clo or their animation that they were going to make later on. Here you see different examples of this. On the left, you see someone that made 3D scans of vegetables. In the middle, this is somewhere at the University of Leiden. This was a student, she chose an archaeologist because she wanted to tell narratives about the end of the world and mass extinction events. So she had bones from animals that had gone extinct for storytelling. And on the right, this was a narrative that was very much about the bodies. So she invited a group of dancers to kind of create human objects to 3D scan. These 3D scans were really kind of meant to let the virtual environment be informed by the everyday or the real around us. Then, of course, when you have these different elements, so you have your avatar, so you have a body, a person, or a representation of a person, then you have your materials, so you have your environment, you have your HRI map, you can make something. Of course, there is this fashion element, but we're not necessarily focusing on that. But then we were like, okay, now we can tell stories. We have kind of the backdrop and we have the actor. And then it was very important to us that students would, in a very respectful way, use the representation of the other and the representation of the material culture to tell these stories. We really looked a lot at all different kinds of animations, movies, about how can you use visual storytelling. Students were also kind of hacking their own animations. They used Mixamo and also Clo to kind of come together into a final deliverable. Of course, we have this question, also this ethical question, like, okay, you're going to tell someone's story. That is something that is rather also personal. So students also reflected on this position that they had.
Yeah, I think communicate well with the other. You're telling someone's story and you don't want to break their trust. So I think it's very important to show them your process and your way of thinking while collecting all of your information. And I think by showing that person and including them in your projects, you can like create a trust with them. And maybe if you also have, for example, I worked with 2 different others, and so I wanted to make a statement about this subject, but also wanted to include a personal story. So yeah, by doing that, I constantly talked with the other and yeah, told them what statements I wanted to make and if they felt comfortable with me telling that statement.
Yeah, for me as well, I first discussed really clearly what I thought I wanted to portray, and then I asked her if she was comfortable with that. But I also asked her what she wanted me to portray. So I really made sure that I would not offend her in a way, especially since it is a sensitive topic of her being trans, and I obviously don't get everything that concerns this subject. I only know what she has told me, and I can only imagine how some of these things might feel, but actually living this and being this person is totally different. So I thought it was very important to discuss what were the boundaries and what could I say or what could I not tell and show about her. But luckily she is very free in everything, and she doesn't really mind me saying too much. So yeah, I think clear communication with the other is very important to make sure that you stay respectful and that you kind of also bring their vision alive together with yours.
And then to really quickly close off, because I know I'm running out of time, the video, they found an animation from Babette, that's the girl with the cap that we heard speaking, about...
In only the Netherlands, there are over 290,000 people with dementia. In 20 years, this will be doubled. If we think about people with dementia, we mostly think of white old people sitting in a nursing house locked away from the society. What if there is a future where we all have dementia? Where we won't forget there is still a human underneath the disease. There are over 290,000 world we're feeding members is the new dementia. World we're feeding members is the new human underneath. Where we all have dementia. Where we all have dementia. If we think about this, we're mostly sitting in the locked away. Where we won't forget there is still a human underneath the disease.
Okay, thank you so much. Hereby, also the question that I would love to go into discussion about. So how to manage expectations of final outcomes when dealing with new technology? And how could we support students' confidence with digital making, aka how to learn a skill in a rapidly changing field? Thank you.
Thank you, Leroy. That was really interesting. It's so beneficial for us 3, I think, definitely for us to work together with you other universities and see how you work with digital tools and sustainability. So Any questions or answers to the questions that Leroy had? I don't know if you can also voice them again if people didn't see them.
I think at the bottom line, it's really how to learn a skill in a rapidly moving field, because we felt that students, they kind of felt like they had to learn all these new things, and there were like all these developments all the time, but at the same time they had to do something with it. How do you deal with that? Also in the professional fields, like you learn something, and at the meantime, like there are 100 updates at the same time. Oh.
I can see Nina would like to give you perhaps an answer to that, or at least a comment.
Yeah, so I was part of the first edition of MIUS. I was third year then. So I have some thoughts about it, of course, and now I'm like a 3D artist and 3D fashion designer. So I would want to answer by saying it's basically learning to navigate the digital space and the digital world. It's really like how I work right now. I want to know something, I immediately Google the things that I want to know. And with the developments, the videos are coming out super quickly as well. So it's really finding this way of autonomy in the digital space. I would say teaching students how to do that is really the way forward, and how you navigate this digital space and how do you find the things you're looking for, because not every teacher is going to know all the updates and know what you need to know. You know, sometimes you need to find out what you need to know yourself. It's a bit of a complicated answer, but that's, I think, the answer to how do you go forward.
It's a really good answer, though. I think it's about how it's not about teaching necessarily the latest tools, but how to teach students to teach themselves the latest tools that drives them. Yeah, Paulina. Thank you, Nina. Paulina, you have something you want to say as well?
Yes, indeed, because in my case, I teach those technical skills, and I also try to share with the students that it's really about context, that we don't expect them, either students or professionals, to know everything all the time, but really also to add to what Nina was saying, it's about this mindset, like what should you know, why should you know it, and that helps you navigate the system. Like for example, when I learned to program, I would ask questions and people would say, yeah, just look for it. I'm like, but what am I looking for? And I think it's in supporting them in understanding what to look for and why to look for it. That would help you also not to be tool dependent, because that was something we wanted to make very clear with them with this project, is that the tools change rapidly, but is how are you as a creative or as a professional able to adapt so it's fitting to your field.
Thank you.
Thank you
maybe a question to like also other students. I think there might be other students, like maybe I'm quite interested, because of course fashion, like traditional fashion, is such a consolidated, and you kind of know whether it's going well, and confidence, like you know, kind of, and it's kind of built in. But like, is that like common to be like quite insecure about this because it's so slippery? Like maybe more students also, yeah. Oh, Nino again, yes.
I have a different question, but I can have it wait for later.
Yes. Are there other students around here?
Fernanda, you're not a student, but perhaps you would like to say, or perhaps you are a student too.
Yes, I think I'm always a student. I'm learning so much with you guys. Yes, so first of all, amazing presentation for both of you. I am here listening to everything, and I found super interesting what you asked. And something that I learned is that when we are teaching, especially for the young ones, we think that since they are born with cell phones, they know everything already. They know all about technologies, and actually it's not true. They know a lot, of course, but it's very important that we always tackle the core of the technology. So it's like, it's not only learning about 3D, it's like taking a step back, actually, and understanding what is a 3D environment and how is it different from a 2D environment. Also, and things like really simple, for example, file formats. Many people work with 3D, but they don't know what's a GLTF and how it's differently from an OBJ. And they should know. If you don't know this, you will encounter so many problems along the way. Like we're talking about body scanning, but what is the file format when you're doing a body scanning? And then, because if you know that, and that's a really simple question, you will know how to import it to a 3D software. So I think it's also bringing awareness to the 3D knowledge before learning the tool. I think it's very, very important. Yeah, that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Fernanda. Yeah, any other question or comments or yeah, or I can see also the question in the Q&A that you unfortunately can't see. I've read it once before, I'll do it again. What do you think needs to change to make digital fashion tools more accessible? And this is widely used in the industry, perhaps. Yeah, Nino?
Yeah, so I wrote down a different question relating to the materiality because I saw in the presentation that that's something quite important for Willem de Koning, but then as a like more 3D forward artist, I'm thinking, how do you see the future of this? Because this seemed a lot about like more artistic development of materiality, but for 3D, like things like fabric scanning is super important, and it's something that's kind of like starting to become big in industry. How do you look at this comparing to like the 3D scanning and the artistic representation of material next to like actual materiality?
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, today I'm actually speaking a little bit also with the knowledge of what is to come, and we will come, also will come with that later. But I recently had a presentation to students, and I see really a push with students. There is this enormous wantingness to move digital, but students really don't want to compromise kind of like the textiles that they do. So that's, I think, a really big question, like how can we really connect these two processes? And I think that's actually at the Willem de Kooning at the moment the biggest challenge. Students are, it's really weird. Like on one hand, I feel like this generation, it's very like the younger generation, is very much like digital, but the other hand, they really love craft, they love embroidery, they love the tactile. And it's funny because we kind of have this project in the fabric station. It goes via our textile workspace, basically. And it's both these things. So I think also this fascination for us and this move towards materiality and kind of in a way like real kind of 3D materiality, but also 3D scanning and material scanning. It's also, it comes from the students, it comes back at us, and it's actually a chapter that I did not know that we were going into, but like our students are pushing us in there. Like this is what feels meaningful for us. They all want to first stitch a garment and then 3D scan it in a way, and then put that real thing that they really made with their hands into the digital space and then start playing with it. So we really figure something out there. Don't know if that's a question.
It's digital craftsmanship as well, right?
Mm-hmm. It is funny because for us, these distinctions are there, like digital and physical, but for students now, actually, we see after 3 years of really investing in digital education that they don't see the difference necessarily in the same way as how I was educated longer ago did.
Paulina?
If I may add to that as well, is that we're talking about making it digestible for the students, that it might be too much at once. And then this materiality was not, like the 3D scan was not separate from the digital production within, in this case, Clo, is that they were able to really improve these scans. And if they desired to, they could also apply it as textiles. So this means if they had scanned a texture or something like that, then we taught them the step-by-steps to kind of start understanding what to look for when you're making a material, making a fabric. And that's how we were bridging this creative part with bringing it into fashion, if that may add as well to your question.
Thank you very much, Paulina. And yeah, we're right there up with you, Leroy. It's the same happening at our. Now it's all about materials and how. Yeah. Any other comments or questions before we go to the last presentation? No? Okay. We can always, if there's something, we sum up at the end as well. Then I will go to our presentation. And yeah, I'll just start from current. Yes, so this is the presentation from the Design School Colling. And I'm just going to show you first, tell a little bit about our focus area, and also show the students' work, followed by showing one process of how the new methods and tools were implemented. But we had a 8-year course. It was brand new, developed from scratch, and the focus was on universal and human-centered design. And as Christian said earlier, we did the collaboration with SUM, with the Danish Association of Youth with Disabilities. And we collaborated with 5 wonderful young people from the association. And the whole thing about collaborating was also a discussion we had with the students. What do we call it when we want to work with somebody else? And we want to understand, we want to sort of get to know what they know about their bodies and what their needs are, and also make them have a say in, or comment at least in the process. So we landed on the collaborators, and therefore we're collaborating. So we wanted to do this course out of what we saw as a sheer need for when you think of sustainability, you also think of it from a social point of view. And we wanted to see how we could learn as much as possible about the other. And I think that I don't think, and necessarily say anything wrong here, but my impression was that our students really crossed a bridge in order to understand and wanting to understand who they were working with, and therefore also hopefully now forever have these new tools of seeing somebody else as really someone else, not themselves. These are some of the works they ended up with. So on the left, you see clothes made for a collaborator with connective tissue disorder, and also the one in the middle. And the one on the right, it's a vest made for a blind person where there is rucksack built in on the back that can be detached, because our blind collaborator, Kenneth, he has to have so many things with him, computers and stuff, and he doesn't want to have a backpack necessarily with him that he might not know where he left. Then we have Christian here, who thought he could never have a leather jacket because it's so heavy, but Valdis made him an alternative version with, as you can see on the back as well, has a different non-slippery material. And as you can see with the sleeves, it's easier to put on for Christian and his helper who's in the picture. There's another thing that the students had to pay attention to as well, that some of the collaborators actually had somebody helping them getting dressed, so they also had to get validation from how easy the clothes was to put on from them as well. Here again we have Anne-Catherine, who has a connective tissue disorder and who has the coolest finger rings. That was very inspirational for our students who worked with her. And Emilia, who did this outfit for Anne-Catherine, wanted to give her the support through her clothes that the rings give on her fingers. We here use the True to Form app. You met Janice before, and this is very super easy app to use with your mobile phone, and the students who had collaborators who could do T-pose and A-pose, they could use this tool, and the others used Luma AI for the seated collaborators. And then we asked the student to also do some reflection afterwards on how it was like working and how they see using body scanners as a tool that would enhance understanding the other, and from also the point of view for sustainability, inclusion, and diversity. Here you see Clara's design on how, again, the blazer can be put on Christian from an angle that actually means that you can put on. All of us who've worn a blazer knows how straight up fit there is to it, and therefore how you cannot move easily. But this was helped by having this but that you don't really notice once it's done up. Another reflection, I really love this one because Matilda said that her design is an adaptive design. It's made specially for Kenneth, but it includes with excluding, because this is made especially for him, and otherwise it could actually quickly be universal design. So another thing that we asked the students to do was to, once having worked really closely with and making something special for one collaborator, at the end they had to reflect and also make a little lineup of the insights they got from working with adaptive design. How could this be put into a universal design and become something for possibly for us all? More students work from working with these are all three for Ida, who's on the autism spectrum, and they all worked closely and with great empathy and around, in this case, Ida. Now I would like to show you the process, but because through there I can best tell about the methods and tools that were implemented. So this is a design made for Antoinette, and it's by Anna and Sabine, and they have been introduced, the students were introduced to Patrick Jordan's The Four Pleasures, and with the focus on the different pleasures that we need for us to attach to something. And they mapped through interviews. They started out with online interviews. Our collaborators were all scattered around Denmark, and they had online interviews first. They were introduced to the wardrobe studies, where they could go over and the collaborators' existing wardrobe, talk from what works from them, what are the good solutions, what doesn't work, and really get to understand the basic needs for possibly being warm on the front and not too hot on the back if you're a seated person, but also understanding the aesthetics and how the collaborator likes to represent themselves. So the students made like a mood board or representation board, and showed it to the collaborator, and had something to further talk from. The collaborators came and visited us, and we did this scanning at the Kolding, and before that also these students here tried to sit, and they tried close-on sitting, see what happens when we sit, where does it fold, where does it become stressful on the body, and how do our measurements change when we sit down. And then they use the Luma AI, as that's what works the best for the seated. And as you can see on, they also, the thing though with the Luma AI, it actually scans the whole room, so you have to clean it afterwards, clean it up, and they used a blender, and a great help from a student's boyfriend was needed here. And then they did a comparison, and as it is for now, Clo 3D cannot represent it in the same way, and possibly, I don't know if we will be able to do that in future, but otherwise there are ways of incorporating and rigging the scans as well. And then Anna and Sabine started on the basic of the measurements on the avatar and of knowing what Antoinette, what kind of person she is. They started finding samples, they started sketching, and then they went online again and talked to Antoinette. So this is something we do all the time. We do it now, but online interviews are also using digital tools. So this is a great way of also engaging when you can't have your collaborators close at hand. And then they used the new tools that have been introduced called the kinetic garment, how you drape on a person instead of draping on a mannequin, and you also therefore can do it in different poses and in different with different shapes and so on. And they have been introduced to kinetic garment both on real physical bodies. They worked on each other. And then afterwards, they were introduced to it using Clothes 3D, which was a great help. And then Antoinette and the others came back again for a fitting and seeing how does it work, what do we need to be aware of, both when we work with bodies and seated bodies we're not used to, but also the translation from the digital to the physical, and what we need to be aware of whether the avatar actually represent totally the person we have as well. We also had the collaborators give us some validation and feedback on what it was like to be scanned and have a digital version. And Antoinette here thought it was great actually to be able to see herself from her back, because she's not used to that. And one of the others said it wasn't actually as bad as he had imagined it would be. And from my surprise to this was that my concern possibly was that whether Kenneth, being blind, what it would be like for him to swirl around as you have to do when you use the true to form. But he did it in one go. He was the best. So well, goes to show how it works. So this is something about all the different methods used and the new tools they used, and how it all turned out for our students. I would like to give a huge special thanks. This is, if there's something I love about this journey we are on, and that I have been on since first encountering Clothes 3D, is that in this new field of digital fashion, people are only so eager to help, to share, and it's a great joy. So therefore, I want to give special thanks to our collaborators from Zoom, and also to Christian, who was really a good facilitator for us. I want to give a special thanks to Yvonne from the Wheelie Stitcher, who helped us understanding how do we interview somebody who is a seated person. Janice Tam from True to Form has been a great help and really made things possible for us. And also to Pia Weitelblasen and the staff from VIA who helped us in the first place with the body scanning from when you scan the whole body in actually a full scanner. Jer and Maya from Mimikins, who makes mannequins made to measure, great insights, and they gave their time. Matilda Bess, who works with social design, and Lisa Chatterton from Fashion Innovation Agency, who also was a great help when I was trying to put all these things together. And of course, very much to Fernando from Clothes 3D, who also helped when we needed to frame the work for how we wanted to do this course here. So huge thanks to all you out there helping us, and just do it with such a joy. Thank you. Of course, to all of you, website, social media, find us, follow us if you want, and yeah. And otherwise, I'll just say that the couple of questions we have here is like a bit more of all the same things. How do the industry see that we can use digital body representation? It could be in augmented reality, where you have both the digital representation and the real world you see, or virtual reality. Or what could sustainable benefits be by unlocking further enhancing technology? So I'm not going to list them all, but I'll just how do both the industry and educators see these tools and this digital representation as a possibility? So if we can open up on that, and of course constantly think about it from sustainability point of view as well, both from a green transition, but also very much from inclusion and diversity. So yeah, that's it from me, and I'll stop sharing. So yeah. Any comments, questions? Yeah, anything to the questions? Yes, Richard?
Hi, could I ask if you could remember about how many hours or what form of instruction the students received on the subject of universal or inclusive design? What was their background knowledge for their work before starting?
Yeah, so that was none. That was it was not existing, and so we started. So in general, this whole course, apart from digital tools and working with others, was very complex, because they were introduced to universal design and other We had our guest professor Yankee Lee was doing a presentation and telling about it, and so that was a whole new field to get your head around how. Now you say universal design, what do you mean by that, and understanding it. And I think it was in a reflection from the student Anna, whose process also showed that she said in the end, she said something like, suddenly at the very end, everything came together and we understood all the things that we've been introduced to and who seemed so complicated in the beginning. And then it's like, yes, now we get it. Now we understand the universal. Now we understand the adaptive design and what it's like working with this, with another person, with another you. Did that anything else to that, Richard?
Was the instruction front loaded at the start of the course?
Yes, absolutely. It was with the very first day. We had Yankee Lee doing. First of all, there was some literature that was asked to have read before, and then she went over some cases, and she showed also some of her own work. And so that was the first thing they met. That was universal design.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome. Any other questions or comments or answers to the questions on how do we move forward? Not just we at me, you, us, but us as in all of us. Any other comments from Janice? Do you want to add something to what it was before? I mean, I know you work from the app, but you're also in contact with so many people in the industry. And what do you see as the both obstacles, but perhaps also how it really works when it works well?
Yeah, what I'm really excited about is the different players in the ecosystem that are bringing their expertise into solving this issue of sustainable and inclusive fit. And so at True to Form, our core competency is the creation of accurate 3D body models and the fit prediction algorithms that come from them. But we don't do anything in garment simulation and draping. That's what's Clothes all about. There's other startups in that space that are really focused on garment simulation and ensuring that that draping and the fabric composition is translating from physical to digital. And so for us, we're really excited about partnering with those companies to bring our solutions together to solve it, because we recognize that it's such a complex issue. It's not just one technology that will solve it and unlock it for everyone. But across schools, students, and now industry, we're seeing a lot of interest in this space, a lot of momentum, a lot of folks who are willing to try new technologies and use first generation's versions of it. Work, in the case of the seated individual, I saw that you used another tool and cleaned it up with Blender. I think that just demonstrates that students are willing to go out of their way to build something that's inclusive, even if it's not going to be so straightforward the first way they do it. So that's what we're really, really excited about.
Can I just add a question to you? So these companies, are they big companies? Are they small scale companies? Is there general, or is it spread across sizes of companies? Or
yeah, so that's a really good question. We're seeing the interest across all different sizes of brands, but of course the small to medium innovative emerging brands are the ones that are more likely to adopt it across the whole supply chain. So at the point of merchandising with our now our e-commerce fit prediction tools. On the larger brand side, they're more likely to first adopt it as a product development tool, use it internally to scan their fit models first, to run remote fit studies to understand their target demographic and use it to inform their sizing. At companies like Burton, for example, they're using True to Form to pre-screen their fit model candidates and save money on bringing them in, making sure that they're just matching their fit model requirements before they actually pay to bring them in. And so on the larger brand side, they're of course going to be a little bit hesitant to immediately transform their e-commerce experience, but they're very willing to try it first as an internal design tool. And then we expect it to follow downstream once they feel confident in that technology.
Great, very interesting. Thank you very much, Janice. Any other comments or questions to possibly to the, if not to this specific, how we worked with our 5 young people, or if there's any others on digital tools and digital representation and sustainability. Yes, Richard?
I've got one more, and it's about how happy were the students with the fidelity of the digital models when they transferred from digital to real fabric.
I can see I've got some students with me. Do you want to answer yourselves, or do you want me to answer on behalf of your feedback? And have you got any students who would like to answer? Not really.
I can answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valdis.
It was like it was only like a little adjustments that I have to make from the digital to the when I made like the fitting in person. It was like, I think we all had like the problem with generally that the clothes were a little bit smaller in the digital digitally, and then we had to like make them a little bit bigger, but overall it was just a few centimeters. But yeah, it was I know that I would have made like way more prototypes if I didn't have the digital avatar to work on. So I only made like one prototype, no, two, like one, and then adjusted. So it was very, very nice.
Okay, so that sounds like a gain in time and a gain in materials saving.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, and it's and that's also, I guess, that means less model time as well, less human time taken up with snipping and threading.
Yeah, for sure. Also because like my user, he's in the same position all day, and just to have like him in that position in the digital world was so helpful, because if I would just use a regular mannequin, I wouldn't be able to make that mannequin into that position. Yeah. It was very useful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to hear.
Thank you, Valdis. Very nice. Anybody else who wants to say something?
I had to add to that from what the students experienced as well, that this was the first time we had that the garments were too small as well. So I think that was a good reflection for the students to see that you still are expected to have some understanding of the industry, and that it's not like blindly thinking the program is doing everything for you, so that you're checking it. And so that was, I think, a very big eye-opener for them. So I think that's also something to add in there, because it was a good learning moment from you're still making fashion, or you're still making a product. So you should be aware of why and how you're doing things, either if it's physical or digital.
Yeah, that's true. And I can't help but thinking whether it also could have something to do with when we usually make clothes, we always add ease. And actually, I think, I don't know, it always still surprises me how much ease you put in just to a quite fitted shirt, so we can breathe and we can move and like that. So there's something to be aware of as well. That's something from how you actually work with clothes as well. Yeah. Any other comments, questions to this work we have done now? Or I mean, as you can see, we work in very different ways, right? And it's so inspirational for us, and we develop with a great we share everything we do, and we comment and give feedback, and with great respect and room for being as different as we are. Each school is and yeah, we get to really understand each other, I think. Any other questions, comments, anything on? No? Have we got any of collaborators with us who, I don't know if we do, or if they would like to comment on anything Have we got any collaborators? And if we do, would they like to comment on what it was like being digitalized? Nino, would you like to say something?
I have kind of a philosophical question actually, but it's been on my mind for a while. So for me, that was never really something that came up in my studies. But why is there such a focus on this inclusivity and these especially I was thinking the people who are disabled and in wheelchairs, it's for the students, I think the hardest body type to work with. Why this? Why for all the students? I definitely this is super important, but I don't feel it's important for everyone. So for me, I'm questioning why. Could you expand on it? Because I find it interesting.
Yeah, I would love to tell you why we did it at least, and that is we were thinking of representation within fashion and this, you know, leave no one behind, and what we can do, and who is least represented out there. But so this is why we wanted to work with somebody who had some needs that are not easily met in fashion, simply from a physical point of view. You know, you needed to, if you sit down, you, as you know yourself, when you sit down, you just need a different kind of seat to your trousers, or you might not want some buckles or anything that can disturb you. And then knowing from previous experience myself that when you, and as I also tried to explain it in the presentation, I see it as you cross a bridge. Once you've understood that somebody has some utterly different needs from yourself, you become much more aware of all the other that we could call other sort of little needs that could be, or discomforts, or couldn't we just do differently instead of just have a status quo on how we work. So it's this sort of really both wanting to include a group that is not included, and it's also but it's also to really, I find it's for the students, it's a great lack of other words, gift, that be able to meet somebody who is so not like you, that can really enlighten you and make you the cleverer of what clothes is and needs are, and so on. So that is why we did it. And we had so there were two wheelchair users, and there were a blind collaborator, one with autism and one with connective tissue disorders, and then the students were like 3 and 3 together, so they also could support each other in how do we talk to this person, how do we because we want to talk in a respectful way. We don't want to just, and also we just don't want to sort of, you know, step on anybody's toes, or we don't want to be disrespectful. So they also had the support from each other in this respect, like in that aspect like that. So this is why we did it. And I would like to again, as I said, I had my own biases. I thought that it would be the most difficult for Kenneth, who is blind, to do the swirl when you do the scanning in the true to form, and it wasn't. I mean, so how silly was I? I'm a bit I'm so much clever from working with these people. So it's just the more you know, the better design you can make. So that's why we did it in this one here, and it's in the whole progression of the the education. So the first year it's about me. You can just delve into yourself and your own DNA. You go to the next level. It's you. Who are you? Who are the other one? And you. It actually enriches your life to know about it. And then in the third, it's going to be all about us, and this is our latest development area, and very soon I'm going to give the word to Alju to tell about our next, because Vidya is the have the lead on that topic there. So, but I saw Paulina, you had also raised your hand. Did you want to add something or ask a question or?
Just something small, but that was also why our students had difficulty with the other. But it's important to raise awareness that design has impact. Maybe in this case, it was for the specific group. Maybe for someone else, they say, I don't focus on that depth within my creations, but I just want to make something, let's be very simplistic and fun and light, but something fun and light is also geared at someone. So I think it's important for us to help the students or the creators to gain a perspective, to see that even if it's just for yourself, you are creating to share with others. And this is why it is important, regardless of the group where it's aimed at, to learn to work within these processes, if I may add that.
Yeah, no, but thank you very much, Paulina. That was really good you added that, because if I can just say something to it as well, and back that sort of kind of bit back to Nino and talking about it is the there was something that was difficult for our students, as far as I could see as well, and that was staying true to who you are as a designer, right? And the thing is, as a design student, as a designer, we have another kind of knowledge. We have the knowledge of material and fit and what is possible, because often as a consumer, if you're not from within the field, you might want more of what you know of, but you could have even better solutions or more aesthetic pleasing or whatever it could be. But this was something that I found was a little bit difficult, was now you know so much about the other, was to stay true to yourself as the designer, with also the aesthetics and the knowledge you have and what you could do. So that's definitely something that for the next time we do the course, we have to make sure that they feel they have the mandate also to really add what they want to do. Was that any answer, Nino, to your...
Yeah, thanks. That was insightful.
Thank you. Okay, we have 7 minutes left. Oh, Richard, yes?
I wanted to add a potential answer to that question about what you get as a student. I didn't teach on this course. I have taught other universal design courses, and the benefit to students, the very narrow benefit, is that they gain what I call high altitude training opportunity. That if you have a very simple and not too difficult kind of design problem, it's the equivalent to not doing exercise. But if you've got a tough design problem, then you are forced to rely on your wits, be more imaginative, use more tools to solve the problem. And that means that the student then gains design strength. It's basically like training. So even if you don't exactly have to go running a marathon every day, it just means that your long-term design health is better. That's the very narrow reason. And then the other reason I think is it probably widens the students' perspectives, which I think is what Crystal said. And then the last one is the one, the ethical reason, because it's the right thing to do. I think it's important as designers. We're usually very privileged people with, the opportunity to do a job that is very luxurious in many ways. And I think it's very important that design students are given an opportunity to understand that lives can be very different for other people, so they understand where they are in the world and where they are professionally and their position in society. So there's quite a lot of levels to why this is the right thing to do. Sorry for preaching.
Preach on. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. That was really well, eloquently said. Yeah, thank you very much. Nastya, did you have a final one? Or
no, I just wanted to react and applause to this. It was a really good answer, and I think I gained from this answer as well. So that was really good. That's what I tried to do.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have developed this. We have done the dissemination. You can find all our tools or all our learning material on our website, on YouTube and wherever. You can find it through the website. And we have 1 more year to go, and we have already started developing we started testing the last one. So Alge from Willem de Kooningen Academy, you have the lead on this last development. It's called Work Package 4, even though we only do 3, but this is what it's called. So, and this is the US development. So Alge, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for such great presentations. I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to start with that. I'm going to quickly share my screen. I hope. So, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So yes, last but not least, I will tell you shortly about the last module we are developing with the different partners. The last work package has a title, Us. And in this module, in this work package, we question virtual and hybrid fashion developments and its future application. Oh, wait. Can I? Ah, yes. So the different schools collaborated on the development of these modules since January already 2024. So we organized train-the-trainer sessions about, so we learned each other about AI, motion capture, and how to incorporate 3D and animation within Clo. And we organized a webinar in May and met each other many times, sharing and brainstorming about the content of the last module. And at this moment, we are actually teaching this last module. The title of the module of the University of Ljubljana is Futuring Us Through Virtual Touch. And the module of Design School Kolding is Future a Better Tomorrow. And the title of the Willem de Kooning Academy module is Fashion Revolution. And in these 5 minutes, I will not have time to go into detail about every module, but I will give you a short introduction and I will explain what the related topics of these modules are and hopefully give you an impression what we are doing at the moment. And yeah, mainly I hope to get you as excited about this about it as we are at the moment. Topics we all address in the modules are student-driven focus, interdisciplinarity, new technologies, future fashion, visions, and storytelling. So I will talk a little bit about these topics and how we're going to address them. So important to mention is that in this project, we've been working with the same student cohort. So these students are now in the 3rd year of their bachelor education. And in the previous modules, students were guided through their research, through assignments and very specific instructions, as you also could have seen in the presentation today. So in the last 2 years, they've been accumulating a lot of knowledge and experiences. And in this module, students take the lead in determining the content of their projects and specify what they want to learn, so the students are in the lead. Another topic is interdisciplinarity. So in the previous modules, it was about the personal development of the student. The you, as you've all been hearing, was about the other. And in this module, it's about the us. It's about positioning within the professional field and interdisciplinary collaboration. And as you can see on this visualization, it's from the University of Ljubljana. In the middle, you see the students and the teachers, and they give, and at Ljubljana, they put a lot of attention also on building a community with the students as a start, looking at what they are as a group, and the circles around it show the collaboration with other faculty staff within the Arts University, but also with other faculties within the University of Ljubljana. And next to that, they work with the company Tronog. So this is an example about interdisciplinarity. Another important topic is, of course, these new technologies. So the aim of the overall project is to train educators and students alike in the new technologies and new software applications. And in this module, we experiment with new digital tools. Think of animation, 3D, immersive technologies, and AI. And in the video, you see some of the teachers of our partners. This is Naja, following a train-the-trainer program about how to use motion tracking, how to use a motion tracking suit and connect this with Clo and VR technologies. So in all the 3 modules, we ask students to experiment and reflect on how these technologies can be implemented in an artistic future fashion practice. Then future vision. It is also very much about questioning what is the influence of these technologies on their profession. And in all these modules, students are asked to position themselves in the professional field in which, of course, these technologies play a very important role. So the purpose of this course is to give the student knowledge and experience in working innovatively, but also thinking about the most significant challenges in the future. So students reflect on the need for sustainable solutions, social cohesion, understanding man as a part of nature, parallel to the rapid development and impact of technology in the industry. And the last point is about storytelling. So to be able to visualize these futures, there is an attention for storytelling within all the 3 modules. I think digital fashion has reinforced the aspect of the importance of storytelling within our profession, and the academies do this in different ways within their modules. So Golding, Design School Golding teaches, for example, speculative design methods, and the University of Ljubljana pays attention to future thinking within their course. And the Willem de Kooning Academy shows students through the realization of a podcast they developed. Here you see Paulina and Leroy working on a podcast. In this podcast, they show how different makers, practitioners, are already realizing their visions of the future in relation to the digital fashion and sustainability. And these podcasts we've been recording, we will share with you in the coming up to future. So yeah, I hope you are becoming excited about what we're doing. And we are, of course, very curious about what students come up with. We will inform you about this in the coming months. So follow the social media. We have an Instagram account. Of course, we will organize a proper presentation also of what we're doing at the moment. And I hope you will be joining again. And I would like to also say, keep an eye on the newsletter. And hope to see you soon. And thank you for your time and attention for this afternoon. And thank you.
Yes, I would like to say thank you very much as well. This has been a pleasure, and it's been great with the comments and questions. And thank you for joining us. And that was a really nice afternoon spent together.